Should be ready, Mr. President, with the Zoom.
Brother Hinkle. All right, we'll call the Harrison County Commission meeting for Wednesday, May the 6th to order. If you'll please stand, we'll do an invocation followed by the pledge of the flag. Dear Lord, I pray that you guide us, always satisfy the needs that need to be met during this meeting. Strengthen us as we make tough decisions. I pray that we will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. I pray that we will be fruitful. Father, please guide us so that this meeting will be productive. Let us be effective and decisive. I also pray that we'll be able to tolerate the cabin fever we've been suffering at this time. Pray for the families who have lost loved ones from the virus. Give us strength to serve as an earthly body until you call us home. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With all due respect to my colleagues, it's kind of hard to talk with this on. All right. First item of business is public comment period. I know that we do have two people. Jeff Thompson, are you in there? You can unmute. Jeff Thompson.
We had Jeff Thompson and a Beth Carter.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Carter, are you in there? Beth Carter. Did we hear something?
No.
All right. Is there anyone that's on the Zoom or in attendance here for public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on. Consent agenda, what's the pleasure? We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Payroll change notices, Mr. Parker.
We have none.
Exonerations, corrective tickets, and joint property applications.
I did not run a total. I would have to do that.
You want to withhold them, David, until the totals?
No, I just would like to see how the total taxes come.
All right.
Okay. Patsy, have you already seen the exonerations? Motion to approve? All right. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Willie, you can put a stamper on that. Item 5 is consolidation of land, segregation of land.
We have none.
Item 6 is consideration of approval of project fund requisition for the payment and costs associated with the project to be financed from proceeds of Series 2019 bonds issued for the Charles Point Economic Opportunity Development District Series 2015 A and B and Development District 3, White Oaks Project Number 2 and Series 208A, Charles Point Project Number 2, North Land Bay Improvements. Mr. Parker.
We do have 3 items under that area. One is a UMB Bank in the amount of $3,056.33. There was a copy of that in the agenda. And then there was 2 others that came in after signature by the CED board. The first one is for Wolf Contracting in the amount of $1,297,699.86, which has been approved by the CED board and others. And then the other relates to project administration, Genesis Partners, $64,884.99.
Recommendation of staff,
Is to approve and have the president affix his signature.
questions of the commission? Patsy, anything? David?
No.
All right, we have a motion to move forward on it. All in favor, say aye. Any negative? All right, item 7 is to review, discuss, and consider the parameters and or timeline in the opening of the courthouse for the general public. With us is Chief Judge Bedell, and as we start talking about this, Judge, let's get your take as to what you perceive, maybe some timelines, and general public activity for the court system and magistrates,
Would you like for me to do that at this time? Yes.
if you don't mind.
I guess, Mr. President, the unknown is when the Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia will allow the courts to reopen. As you're aware, the current stay of all proceedings, except for those that can be done remotely, expires May 15th. It's anticipated sometime prior to that that the Chief Justice will give us information on the reopening of the courts. So we're a little bit in limbo as far as the timing. I think the issue really then becomes not a matter of timing, but and certainly the opening or the remaining the courts remaining closed would not affect the other agencies and offices in the courthouse being open to some extent. But, so and we would certainly work together once we're allowed to reopen. My perception is there's a lot of pent-up demand for the services of the court system, especially in the magistrate court. And we need to address in some measure on how to control the influx of citizens, especially to the magistrate court. The circuit judges have already scheduled a number of proceedings, really for the week, starting the week of the 18th, on the contingent that we may be reopening, but we don't know that. And we've talked about if there are proceedings of establishing how many folks can be in the respective courtrooms with the 6-foot separation, and if 10 or 15 people are allowed, whatever the number would have to work out mathematically, our thoughts are we may have someone with the cooperation of the security services of the building, to ask anybody additional to remain outside until somebody leaves and someone else can come in, and asking folks to only show up at the appointed time and not early, and those sorts of things to try to help with that, the reopening of that. But we're certainly willing to work with the commission and do anything that we can do to make things a smoother transition.
All right, any questions of the judge? David? Patsy? Well, I think what we're going to do is just keep this in limbo and be a work in progress as we move forward from the 15th. We're not sure, and that's part of our discussion right now, guys, as to what and where we're going. I know with the additional restrictions that the health department has considered Harrison County, that I think some of that coming from Charleston says work at home and still be sort of not full-fledged open for whatever reason. So some of the questions, that's the concern. The governor put weeks 3 through 6 as where courthouses then can be up to fully open or open. So what's the pleasure of the commission? Patsy?
I'll follow the administrator's lead on this, and, as far as I'm concerned, as long as the safety glasses up that we did the walkthrough last week,
then it's up to you guys, and it's ultimately to the health department and how many people to have in X amount of square footage. So, don't open a day early before, you know, our employees and our public can feel safe.
Yeah, I just think that we need to have a game plan, and I know it's subject to a lot of, unknowns, as the judge said. David, what's your, feel on this? Do we, need to let staff?
To my knowledge, I haven't heard anybody say the courthouse hasn't been functioning. Does anybody have an issue with the way we've been doing it that's causing issues with performing your elected duty?
Susan, have you had any issues?
I'd probably be the last to know, but no. I mean, the only thing is the probate. I mean, we have been doing some of those on an emergency basis.
Mm-hmm. Rocky?
As I've told Willie in my weekly report, you know, I've been amazed at what we have been able to get done. And I had all my people to go on their personal Facebook, let all their friends know and share that we can get this work done by the phone,
Right.
give them a phone number, and we're okay. I did change my schedule a little bit. I got 3 people in real estate, 3 in personal property, and 2 in data entry throughout the month of May. We're rotating that. The rest are working from home. We're in good shape right now.
It's working.
Yes.
Albert?
Mostly the priority paperwork is being processed. There's non-priority stuff that we get questions about occasionally, but most of our priority stuff is being processed.
I mean, you're still providing the service and,
Yeah, absolutely.
Sheriff?
Same, you know, a few small obstacles, but we've been able to work through them.
Okay. Rachel, I see that, you're in there. You have, any, comments with regard to how we're operating at, this particular time?
It's business as usual in our office. As everyone knows, I mean, we have people in the office every single day, just on a rotational basis. And, you know, it's working to keep, I think, people healthy and minimize exposure, but it's business as usual. Everything keeps moving.
All right. Thank you. Well, I think there's a consensus there that, we are open for business, even if it's restricted to how we're doing it. Willie, I would think that from a staff standpoint, particularly with our courthouse security, that some of those questions I put in the memo to you guys need to be looked at when we do open to the public, whether it's small entrance or whether it's wide open. How are we going to continue with the entrance for staff? Are we going to still do 2 doors? What happens to the back door? I mean, the way it's going now has certainly worked efficiently and with the utmost integrity of our courthouse security system. I mean, even the questions that were asked when we come into the basement in the parking area there. So, I mean,
I'd like to make a motion we continue with our present
all right.
situation, and that, next commission meeting, that Mr. Parker present us with
Game plan?
a game plan, along with comments from the elected officials, whether or not we need to continue it
Okay.
at the
And
end of the month.
That is the next meeting.
Unless there's a special meeting, it'd be the 20th, May the 20th.
okay.
We got
And-
starts May the 27th.
And it might be a special meeting if the court system doesn't extend it beyond the 15th. And once we get word on that, we can always do a special meeting and move stuff up.
For the court to allow people in, so we don't have to open the courthouse all the way.
Okay. All right. You okay with that, Patsy? Judge, any further comments or whatever? So it's going to be business as usual. All right, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Judge, thank you anytime. All right, item 8 is to review, discuss, and consider request of the sheriff to transfer within the tax department in the amount of $1,705. All in favor, say aye. Item 9 is review, consider, and discuss recommendations for the advertisement for the position of Deputy Director of Grants and Special Projects. It'll be a pay grade B1, which is in the managerial pay grade at a starting salary of $50,395. Motion to approve. Any further discussion? Patsy?
You know, once again, I'm gonna say it out loud, and I'm for this. But we're adding to payroll without the guarantee of a cost of living rate for our employees that we already have. So I'm gonna vote no unless I know that we're gonna compensate the people that we already have, because this is a needed position. At the same time, this would take us over the $300,000 mark of added payroll in this upcoming budget without the promise of giving to the individuals we already have. That's all I have.
All right, and Patsy, you do know that when we approved the budget last time, that 3% is held in abeyance, determining whatever our financial status looks like at that time. Is that correct, Mr. Parker?
That's correct, yes.
So, and you also realize, Patsy, that it takes 2 votes to approve it, and I'm one that will be approving it, so just to let you know.
So let's get it out of the way. Please.
Yeah, that'll be coming up. At what time is the review, Willie? It's 1st of June?
Yeah, it'll be during the
And it'll
June
start
time
in
period.
July. All right, so we have a motion. I second it, and further discussion. One of my things is, Willie, that being the old guy on this group, when earlier commissions established the Department of Grants and Special Projects, it was viewed then, what you included in the, I saw it in the paper, that that all grants, whether it comes from planning, OEM, 911, all grants are to be facilitated through that department. Doesn't mean that the other agencies can't help and assist in preparing that grant, whether it's a Rails to Trails or something from Charleston, but we got to have a clearinghouse and a one-stop center, and that's what that planning department was. And I'm glad to see that as staff, you're starting to make sure that those functions happen. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 10 is to review, discuss, and consider correspondence from JanCare Ambulance Service, Inc. They're requesting consideration for funding from the COVID-19 county block grant. And let's see if the director is JanCare on the Zoom with us.
Paul Seaman is listed there.
Okay, Paul, are you with us?
Yes,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
here, and Mike Thomas will be speaking to that as our COVID director. He's on the line too now.
Yes, sir. How you guys doing? Thank you for your time. My name is Mike Thomas. So basically, we've just found out that there's a lot of ambiguity going on with these block grants. Basically, we're just requesting information on how we need to go about applying for that and how that process, what that process will look like, sir.
All right, Mr. Parker, you want to provide some?
Yes, as I understand the requirements for the block grant, the expenditures must comply with what's known as the CARES Act. And the county commission is looking at, personal protection equipment and equipment for, staff or individuals with municipalities to work from home. I do not think, first question is, JanCare, are you a for-profit entity? How are you structured?
Yes, sir. We are private for profit.
Okay. In my understanding, I don't think a private for-profit entity would be eligible for any expenditures that would be, need to comply with the CARES Act.
Sir, I respectfully disagree with that because these block grants were issued for first responders. There was no classification of their structure or anything. They just issued it to all first responders during the COVID-19 PHE.
I understand that. What has been said versus what has been written sometimes may not be in agreement. That's what's led to some ambiguities, misunderstandings, whatever you want to call it. The requirements are it has to be directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic, cannot be an expenditure in a agency's current budget that was approved, whether it be municipality or county government. And it can be used for overtime, eligible overtime that's directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it must be a necessary expenditure. That's my understanding, and the understanding of other people across the state is, for example, we could not issue, hero pay or whatever you want to call it to our deputies. That is not an eligible expenditure. We cannot do that. Now, if there's overtime the sheriff's department has that's directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic, then that would be eligible. If it's just overtime in a normal course of business, that is not eligible for the county government. That's my understanding of the requirements.
Yes, sir. As far as those requirements go, we qualify for all those requirements as far as the COVID-19 period, the PPE, the overtime, et cetera. And with reading it and what you just read aloud, there's no mention of prohibiting private for profit for getting that, a portion of that. So I guess that's more of my question, is what we need to do to proceed or find out, confirm that is the case, sir.
I'll make a motion to make this part of today's record and send it on to the county attorney for evaluation, and the county director get back with them with the information.
Yeah. So that's the motion. Patsy, any further discussion? I do have a little note here from our OEM director. JanCare has received some PPE through OEM, and what Laura suggests is have them put the request of their expenditures through her office, Willie, as a central clearinghouse, and then that can be added to it. There's $100,000, if I'm not mistaken, that could be used and spread out through all of the CARES Act, first responders, I reckon, postal workers, grocery store people, anybody in harm's way there.
As a part of the OEM office, they are submitting requests for PPE equipment on a weekly basis normally. We may or may not receive all that, but, JanCare, and I'll make sure they get or Laura gets in touch with JanCare, they can be included in that request, whether it's granted from the state, that's out of our area, but we are out of our authority, but we can make the request.
And she says that she has distributed some PPE
Yes.
supplies to JanCare. Did you hear that, Paul?
Yes,
Paul still on?
thank you.
Okay. All right, and Paul, Mr. Parker or Laura will also be getting with you to go over any of the other details that maybe we're not clear on, so we can clear them up.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and David, your motion again, did you get it, Susan? All right, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item 11 is review, discuss, and consider correspondence from the Catholic Charities of West Virginia requesting consideration of funding for the COVID-19 County Block Grant. Mr. Parker, can you enlighten us on that? And is there anyone on Zoom that's representing Catholic Charities? If you are, unmute. Hearing none, Mr. Parker?
Just correspondence the office received, I included on the agenda. There's numerous counties that are receiving this same letter across the state from Catholic Charities of West Virginia. They're, of course, a nonprofit, 501, whatever, designation. But it's a matter of whether the commission wants to add another agency to our list of agencies that we're donating to for feeding and providing food for.
Probably be the same motion, David, that you made for the JanCare.
Yeah.
I mean, we can accept, Willie, anybody that feels that they qualify for it. And once we get it, I'm sure there'll be $1 million worth of requests out there, and you have 100,000. So that will be up to us to make that determination of priority.
I have, just as you gentlemen are aware, we have sent letters to all municipalities asking for their proposals or expenditures they may have already made, and requested those back by on or before May the 28th.
All right. So the motion, David?
Make a letter under advisement, have legal, give a recommendation, and Mr. Parker get back with the jury.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. All right, item 12 is discuss and update status report on payroll conversion project with Paycom Payroll LLC. Susan, is that you, Willie? Both of you. Both of you.
We've, as the commission was aware, we brought a proposal to the commission a month or more ago to go with a payroll service, Paycom Payroll LLC, and we've been moving forward with various meetings and information that Ms. Thomas and her staff have been providing. They're the ones doing the heavy lifting in this conversion process to Paycom, and it's, I have not updated the commission maybe as much as we should have during this process, but we're looking at the first pay period in July, the first check in July the 15th. It would be the one that would be issued through this payroll service. They will handle it, as I understand it, pretty much from start to finish. They'll be doing the deposits to the IRS, quarterly payroll, required payroll deposits, quarterly reports, and everything associated with that process. They'll be issuing, the direct deposits, checks, will be sent from there if someone's not on direct deposit. So it is a complete service as well as having the ability to have employees do online of their, HR forms, insurance, retirement, et cetera, things associated with that, new employee paperwork. We'll be able to, go through the app and get that. We're looking, of course, at the biometric clocks, installing and using those. The constitutional officials, we've had a meeting with the constitutional officials. I think Albert was here in the room. The others, I think, attended over Zoom. I do not believe our prosecuting attorney was involved in that meeting. But, just to give some general questions and general overview of what we're looking at and how we're proceeding. So if there's specific questions, if Ms. Thomas has other information to provide or specific questions from the commission at this point.
I mean, they have pulled a lot of the documentation that they need, information that they need concerning employees. We are now working on getting the forms to them so they can put those on the system. Moving along.
All right. Any questions, David?
Live date 7/1.
The pay period begins June the 25th. That'll be the first pay period where people will be, scanning the thumbprint or web-based sign-in, whatever the commission and the elected official sets up for their office. But that July 15th will be the first check that goes through that. Prior to that, there'll be training meetings set up for the constitutional officials and their staff. So June will be a busy month as it relates to that part of the process.
You all will be getting an email today to give us names of who will be approving. It's not going to be payroll changes, but that's what it is in your office, whether it be you or somebody else. So Eric is going to be sending that out today.
Yes. The initial hiring still has to be approved by the commission. You'll still be seeing our current form, our payroll change notice form for new hires, because that requires commission approval. There's other things for payroll, like the normal pay grading steps. If Rocky or Albert or Rachel or the sheriff have that for payroll, they can provide that notice electronically through this system. It'll go right to that. That doesn't require commission approval, because that's already in the budget.
Yeah, except for any changes on step increases.
Yes, yeah, if it's outside the normal pay grade step program, it'll come to the commission for approval. If Ms. Thomas has somebody she wants to move from pay grade 4 to 6,
Comes to us.
it will come to you for additional money to get that accomplished.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
It has to do it.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
So who determines whether it's biometric or whether they can do it on a phone?
That'll be up to the constitutional official for their office. In the meeting we had, if I'm wrong, correct me, most people will be looking for their staff that's here in the courthouse, probably be biometric. Probably Ms. Romano, for her attorneys, for her district, assistant attorneys, would probably be web-based, I would assume, because they may or may not be at the, courthouse, depending on where they're, operating from. Law enforcement may be a little bit different depending where they operate from. But that'll be a decision at the constitutional officials level.
Who's liable for payment to an employee if it was approved by an elected official with commission or that elected official?
Both, your joint employers. Both would be liable if something was paid
So
incorrectly.
if an elected official chooses to use the telephone and allows their employees to add an hour, as an example, to their pay period every week, the commission is also
yes, you'd be responsible if, I'll pick on Rocky because he's the assessor and it begins with A. If the assessor is adding hours to a timesheet, now, money-wise, the commission is responsible. If there's activity that would be civil or criminal in nature, that would be the assessor, the constitutional official. Just picking on you, Rocky.
You like to do that.
I do. But for money, since you are the chief fiscal agent and a joint employer, you also could be liable for the money part of it. But if there's, depending on the situation, if it's, accidental overpayment, error, that's a different story versus what if there was, fraud intent per se.
Well, I'm gonna say that going forward, that if somebody is habitually late or habitually leaves every day, that's fraud.
Well, the system that we have,
The system will catch that if they're allowed to do that themselves. We gonna geofence it, or we gonna?
you can geofence it. That's why we're looking at biometrics.
We also have an approval process
Yeah.
in that could be.
We have an approval process now, too. But let's just face it, we know people in this courthouse cheat system, whether we wanna, so I'll just say if they do, we know people come in late, we know people leave early, they cheat the system.
I can tell you, happened in my office.
Didn't say it did happen here, I'm just saying the courthouse.
You're saying in the courthouse. I just
If,
wanted to get that out.
if the preferred method for most officials, I think, is the biometric for that very reason. The thumbprint has to be there. If it's a web-based or through your electronic device, through your phone, there's a three-step verification process of signing in. So the employee has to sign in. Now, you can geofence their, or restrict their IP address where, if Rocky has someone that he's okayed to sign in on the computer, then you can restrict the IP address. They have to be at that computer before they can sign in. Or you can geofence their sign in where they have to be in a proximity before they're allowed to sign in.
I'm fine with it. I mean, the point of why we agreed to do this was to save the county money.
Yeah.
Make sure that we weren't losing money for work not performed.
And right now, we're looking at, even though, the breaks will be paid if they're less than 20 minutes under the West Virginia statutes. If a break is less than 20 minutes, it must be paid. But we're looking at, signing in and out for, if Johnny goes outside to smoke, I don't think Johnny smokes, but he would be required to sign in and out for that break as well as lunchtime. So even though we have a paid lunch, we're still going to be tracking that time. That's the intent and in our discussion.
I believe it's still the intent to save money, but
Yeah, I mean, that's the intent is, this, I think, will lead to a cost savings in the long run, and also have added additional accountability.
that's the big thing, the accountability.
It puts the accountability at more accountability at the employee, more accountability at department heads and constitutional officials. There's more attention to detail, and that's what Ms. Thomas was talking about is, who's going to be approving that process. The constitutional official would be the final approval for their office.
Because currently, and I can still see this happening. Mistakes happen, I get that, but we got to pay attention to stuff on the system and make sure it's in there properly. Because garbage in, garbage out, and we're gonna have these mistakes if we don't catch them, just like we do now.
The system does have additional accountability and safeguards into the system, and it's the intent to utilize those to the fullest.
Because the hours worked will be in there. That will be wonderful for overtime purposes. Shouldn't be any other problems with that, the cost of that.
The one thing, you know, that the employees will see the biggest change once we get started is the pay will be for the hours worked, and that's approved in the system. Whether it's regular pay plus the overtime, whatever it may be, you know, that is gonna be much time savings and cost savings and reduce errors overall. You know, you won't see payroll change notices for leave without pay. You won't see those anymore because the system will be handling that. Now, if it becomes a problem, you may see that in another form.
As an action item.
As an action item, but it won't be, you know, leave without, you know, family medical leave without pay. The system will be tracking the family, for example, family medical leave. It has the capabilities to do the look back for the period to see if, the employee is eligible for family medical leave or if they've utilized all of it. They do have those capabilities. Right now, that's a manual process.
Okay. Other questions, David?
No, it's just that I just hope that all the elected officials will go with, biometrics,
Okay. Patsy?
protect everybody so we don't get into an issue.
I don't personally have a problem.
I think most of them will be using that for the staff here. And you know, there may be some differences for law enforcement, and they can use that if they, you know, depending on what the sheriff, you know, where they officially come on duty at.
All right. Albert, you had your hand up?
I was just curious what geofencing meant, number one, and I guess my second question, if you want to answer that one first, what's geofencing?
Geofencing is if I'm signing in, I have to be within a certain parameter of 301 West Main Street. I can't be at 97 River Church Road in Buchanan and sign in. It won't let me. You know, I have to be somewhere, whatever that fence is, however big that fence is.
I guess my second question is, talking about authorization, is can more than one person in the office authorize it, just in case one of the others on vacation or something? So there'll be a...
And whoever's doing it now. I'm talking about payroll change issues. That's what I'm speaking of. But as far as vacation and sick time, that will be on there too, and you can approve that through there. They can make the request.
Well, won't somebody have to authorize each pay period?
Yes.
Okay. So,
How are you doing it now? Of course, you don't have pay periods.
but, well, right now, both of us sign off. My chief deputy and I.
That's what you want. Give us the name.
But I don't necessarily require both signatures. One of us is on vacation, then one of the other.
Yeah, one of two.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing it two of two while you're here,
But you
but,
can do this, more than one person.
Yes.
yeah.
That's my question, is more than one person
Yes.
can authorize it in the absence of another?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Other questions?
We just have to put those in the system. That's all we need to know.
If not, what action, do we need to take, make it part of today's record?
Yeah, that's all we need to
All
do
right.
today is, and I'll try to keep you updated better during this process. The biggest, thing coming up is to continue to collect the information, Ms. Thomas and her staff.
Okay.
You know, they're doing the heavy lifting there. And then the training periods for the employees and
I think we have a calendar, so I mean, we put.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we need.
for the departments to get familiar.
Everybody.
All right, motion to make it part of today's record. Patsy, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. We're a little, late on our proclamation, but, Sheriff, if you would just like to come up here in the front, we'll keep our social distancing, so that, with the proclamation here, and John, if you can take a few pictures when we start this. I'd like to, first of all, recognize, and for those who are watching, and hopefully we have many of these representatives from police agencies there,
but I've counted 18 or 19 law enforcement entities within Harrison County, and I'll just go over them real quick. All of them will be receiving a proclamation. Sheriff, if you don't mind, you can be the carrier and accept the proclamation on their behalf. But we have the Sheriff's Office, the State Police, City of Clarksburg, Bridgeport, Shinston, Towns of Nutter Fort, Stonewood, Anmore, Salem, and Lumberport. We have the U.S. Marshals Service, the FBI Police, the VA Hospital Police, DEA, ATF, DNR. We have the social groups of the Blue Knights, as well as the Fraternal Order of Police, and I'm sure there's some others like the school system, Rachel's office, and so on, that have police powers that I have missed. Without further ado, Sheriff, I'll read this and we can wipe it off before you grab it if you would like, to make sure that it is sanitary. Back in the 60s, when President Kennedy authorized this, I happened to be an Air Force guy stationed at Andrews Air Force Base, which was outside D.C., and of course, most of you know I'm retired Washington, D.C. police officer, motorcycle cop, and that's the reason why I continue to ride a motorcycle. I can't get that out of my blood or the police work. 48 hours is a good viewing for me. Proclamation reads, whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May the 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15 falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of law enforcement agencies in Harrison County play an essential role in the safeguarding of the rights and freedom of Harrison County, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agencies recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, and by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and weak against obsession. And whereas the men and women of law enforcement agencies in Harrison County unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now therefore be it resolved that the Harrison County Commission does hereby proclaim the week of May the 10th, 2020 through May 16th, 2020 as National Police Week, and call upon the citizens of Harrison County, all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe this week with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all our people may join in commencing and law enforcement officers, past and present, who have their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established themselves as invincible and enduring reputation by preserving the rights and security of all citizens. Be it further resolved that the Harrison County Commission does hereby proclaim May 15, 2020 as National Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty, and let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Passed by your Harrison County Commission the 6th day of May, 2020, signed by all three of our commissioners and attested by our clerk, Susan Thomas. With that, Sheriff, if you don't mind to receive this on behalf of all law enforcement.
I will.
And in addition to that, be able to convey, and I've got a sheet with all the names in these agencies that you can take the proclamations to.
Yeah, we'll get them delivered. Thank you.
All right?
Very much.
One little sidebar is, in Washington DC, they have, always had a week of events, during National Police Week. And, in addition, because of the virus, that's going around, they've had to cancel for the first time ever all the functions. So with that, thank you very much, Sheriff.
All right, back on our agenda. Item 13 is review, discuss, and consider selection of the Thrasher Group for the roof project at the Public Safety Building. Mr. Dale, let's give you a little bit of information or a little bit of time here. You have anything to add with that before we let Willie and the rest of them?
As far as having Thrasher do it,
Or the need, at least.
that roof, from Mr. Ryan and, Sutter Roofing, that roof was on its last leg a couple years back. In an effort to try to save some money, we looked at the metal roof, and I think that, Mr. Ryan left some stuff out as far as relocating some things. So, I guess it depends on, what you're wanting to do with it, if you're wanting to keep it, but it's gonna need done. I mean, there's been stuff in the sheriff's side, in the kitchen leaking, and there's, containers catching it, and, it's in bad shape. The rubber roof is $200,000 more than the other. Aesthetically, it would look a lot better and add to the building if you ever wanted to sell it, down the road.
All right. Mr. Park, go ahead.
What's the status with the HVAC system in the building?
The heat and air.
I've had Casto go down there and repair some things that have been needed done for a while. It appears to be fine now. I know there were some issues over the winter with some of the heat, but Casto was able to go down there and order some parts and get some stuff up and running. Mr. Ryan seemed to indicate there was a problem with some of the ductwork that was maybe collapsed or something. I'm not sure of that, but as far as cooling, it's probably not been a good time to.
Yeah, I couldn't really give you a fair evaluation right now, kind of in the spring, but, winter was tough, but I think that they have a piecemeal, but who knows what the life expectancy, how long this will last.
I know there were some new condenser units put on the roof in the past, and the old 911 side had more heat issues than the sheriff's department side, but there were some reset issues. But we got the parts, and it seemed to be okay there at the end.
All right, Mr. Parker.
A couple of things that we're looking at, as it relates to the HVAC, we'll be taking a review of that during the roof project. The intent is to relocate and reduce the number of rooftop units down to possibly 2. And I suppose there's 4 there now, 4 or 5, or, so, using the 2 newest ones, but working in conjunction if the commission approves Thrasher Group on that. I think Chad Miller's on the Zoom there, was the plan, but we advertised under the 5G process back in 2017, and MSES was the firm that we went with at that time, and you gentlemen know what action we took at the last meeting that we had, and discontinued their services. The next group, the next firm that was rated was the Thrasher Group, and it would be my recommendation to proceed and have Thrasher Group present us with a contract for final approval by the commission for the project.
All right.
Chad, are you on there? Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'm here, Willie. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's exactly what we talked about. And all we need to do is get together with you and come up with a scope of work and give you an estimated fee schedule, and you guys can ask questions, and we'll go from there.
All right, any questions? We do have a motion to accept Thrasher and First Staff's recommendation. Any further discussion, David?
How long do you think it'll take you to turn this around, Chad, to get back to us so we can take a look at it?
Did you hear that, Chad?
Yeah, I heard it. I think we can be pretty quick, David. I mean, you know, I think we just need to know, are we moving, you know, the heating and cooling system? Are we going to just go in and put a metal roof on? I mean, I think we just need to understand the scope of work and make sure we're all clear as to what direction you want us to go. And maybe you just want us to look at it and make a recommendation for you as to which way to go, and that's fine too.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Item 14 is to review, discuss, and consider requests from the town of Lumberport for an out-of-service vehicle, the old Chevy Tahoe that's sitting over there that Lumberport feels that they can take two and make one. Mr. Parker?
Yes, we have a letter of correspondence. I think their letter identifies it as a 2001. The title identifies it as a 2000 Chevy Tahoe, and we are not utilizing that. It is not roadworthy without quite a bit of expenditure. And as I understand it, Mr. President, as you've said, they're going to be utilizing this to make two into one.
Yeah. All right, so what's the pleasure? We have a motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're down to commissioners' comments.
Mr.
Patsy?
President,
Yeah, go right ahead.
Can I say a couple things before you guys start?
Go right ahead.
First off, I'd like to compliment the commission, all the other elected officials and their staffs on how well Harrison County has handled the pandemic. I think we've come through this very well. I'd also like to thank the commission for allowing us to do a little bit in the kitchen downstairs. As I like to say, Greg, you know, as Greg said, he wouldn't put that stuff in his garage. So we're glad to get that done, and I'd like to thank Greg and his staff, the work they're getting done for us while we're shorthanded on people. And the other thing is, the Harrison County Assessor's Office uses a condemnation record. And we would like to thank the IT department, Johnny Davis, Brian Hayes, Charlie Kirkendall. The Assessor's Office would like to recognize the entire IT department for their over and above efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic. All three employees helped to get all equipment ready and assigned for home use, all while helping other offices in the courthouse. They answered phone calls from our home employee with technical issues and continue to do so. All of the assessor's office requests during this time have been answered and dealt with in a timely manner. Their performance during this crisis truly needs commitment. This is not from me alone, this is from my entire staff.
Rocky, why don't we give it to Mary's office as keeper of personnel files?
Okay.
And submit that to each one of our employees' personnel files.
Thank you.
All right, now the comments. Patsy, anything?
Yeah, two things real quick.
Go right ahead.
The administrator, the Westport Sewage Coalition is ready to start on phase one of, they received $2.5 million to start the sewer project.
Talking about Paul Hamrick?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All they need is a revised letter, the same letter as 2018, just updated, sent to him, and that project will start. And it's actually just a third of the money they have. They have actually received
Wow.
It's incredible. They've done an incredible job. So Willie, if you could just send that letter, same letter as 2018 to Paul, so they can forward that on the trust. powers that be.
For some reason, that email went to my spam folder, and I found it yesterday afternoon.
All right. Yeah, they're ready to go. And then the only other thing is I had talked to Willie and Greg last week when we walked through. The reason, just so you and David know, is that I followed what they've done around the rest of the country with the blue lights as a way to thank healthcare workers and during the coronavirus. And that's why I've asked him to put the blue light bulb over the blue screen at night with the board lighted up in blue. And then the other thing is, and I shared this with Greg and Willie, and I just brought a picture so you have an idea of what we're wanting to do on Court Street, unless you guys don't want to. It's very simple. It's just stringing lights, and I sent Willie walked Greg out there the other day. And the reason for that is, and I know this sounds funny, for years, people have used Court Street and Traders Alley for prom, homecoming, and wedding pictures. And for years, they've been asking to do that on Traders Alley, but they're never able to get that done for some reason. But if we could do it on Court Street, it is a place where people do want to take their pictures. They would do it in the evening if that was lit up. But I can't get the cart before the boards because I still have to have Cherry Tree and Chris Lane, and that'll be cool if we can connect to their building if so we can let up. So that may or may not happen, but it's not a major, I don't want you guys to think.
It's just string lights.
Yeah, and it's a fact of, just some camaraderie with our bridal boutiques and, throughout the county, that they would like to make it a setting that they actually utilize what we have and the old that we have, you know, it's still unique, in Traders Alley and Court Street. We'll never actually have it again.
Probably help with security.
But if you guys are okay with it, if I can just ask Willie to direct Greg to do whatever he wants to do once I talk to the property owners, I don't believe it's not, that's fine.
Patsy, why don't we put a plan together and put some numbers, see where we're at? I thought it was something different than that. I thought
No, it's nothing.
with spotlights up there, or a landing, with the blue lights on, top of the courthouse or something.
It's really not a whole lot.
Yeah, okay. All right, anything else? David?
I don't know if we can do this, but the sheriff has located a cruiser, and he has some money coming from some of his correct vehicles. Well, I'd like for us to go ahead and authorize purchase of cruisers.
Yeah, second that.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Willie, add that to, however we have to legitimately do it. Could be an administrative function. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Anything else, David?
I'd like for staff to look at where we can move money around to, maybe consider doing something for our employees this time.
For what?
Move money around to do something for our employees at this time.
Well, come July, they're going to get 3%. You want to make that 4?
I'd like to do something for July.
All right, come up with the plan, then you ask staff to do that, right? Some recommendations? Remember, Patsy, the 3, you only need 2.
All right, you got it.
All right. All right, staff, you got that? Anything else, David? I'd like to, from my comments, apparently during this pandemic, the bad guys and gals are staying home or staying somewhere. I just got an invoice this morning from regional jails, and for April, originally the invoice came in at $102,000, which I had never ever seen in my tenure here, but with some other deductions, our April bill is only gonna be $87,091.25. So where are the bad people? I don't know.
They don't.
Wherever they are, I hope they're all going legal. That's what it is.
Converted.
Mr. Parker?
One item that we probably need to bring to the commission's attention, unless there would be disagreement would go back to item 7, and I know Mike and Doug are on there, but we had a Zoom meeting with myself and Mr. Book and Mr. Comer, Laura Peace and Jessica Sell about our summer programs at Energy Express. I made a copy of the Energy Express handout and laid it at each of your locations, but it'll be a virtual program, at-home program this year, and how Energy Expresses will work as outlined there. But our recommendation relates to the summer programs is to discontinue that for this year and not plan on having those activities.
All right.
If that's agreeable with the commission, that really would not take any action.
Right.
If you disagree with that recommendation, then we need to back up.
All right.
It's not something we want to do, but we feel it's necessary.
Right. Another comment I had to share, it looks like, I'm not sure what the Italian Heritage Festival's doing, but I got a call from the leadership in Salem with regard to the Salem Apple Butter Festival, and they are looking at also canceling. I suggested to them that they wait until June the 1st before they make that decision, but you know, we've got the Apple Butter, we've got the Blackberry Festival, the Black Heritage Festival, and most all the other festivals that have canceled. So, but I haven't heard anything about the Italian Heritage Festival. I did hear a rumor, they said it was gonna be a one-dayer, I don't know. So, that wasn't confirmed. All right, anything else?
We do have an 11 o'clock conference call that's on our agenda. We're a few minutes late for. That would require an executive session.
All right.
For West Virginia Code 698-4, it's matters related to the opioid litigation.
All right, let's stand in, 11 o'clock. I'm looking at that clock, Albert, it is.
It's broke, I changed the battery
Yeah.
earlier, but it's
Okay.
barely broke.
All right,
Make a motion to go into executive session.
all right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Yeah, we just lost an hour of our life for nothing.
Okay, we're back recording and back online
Motion to go back into
for
session.
for regular
All
session.
in favor, say aye.
Aye. Motion adjourned.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're out of here.
For our executive session, it was just administrative and talking to legal counsel about ongoing case, so just to let you know what that was for. And we're adjourned.
So that means-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aha.
Hey,